Flip phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
The 2023 Reese's Senior Bowl has officially concluded, as the national team beat the American team 27-10. Overall, the entire week was full of excitement, and a lot of players lived up to the expectations or even increased their draft stock, while some ultimately may have decreased their draft stock just a little. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my winners and losers of the Senior Bowl week. Before I move on, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get into it. The first winner that I have in today's video is Tulane running back Tyjae Spears. Recently I made a video on underrated NFL draft prospects, and Tyjae Spears was in that video. As I said in the said video, that Tyjae Spears has been praised for his speed, quickness, agility, being a very competitive running back with great vision, ball security, and even better balance. And during the Senior Bowl week, I think he improved his draft stock and was ultimately a winner, as some of the things that people had doubts about Tyjae Spears as an NFL running back was his blocking abilities and being someone that can be used more in the passing game, as at Tulane, he wasn't necessarily the biggest receiving back in their system. He definitely wasn't someone that strayed away from it, still had 22 receptions for 256 yards in 2022, but it wasn't the biggest part of his game. But during the Senior Bowl week, he blocked pretty well, and he showed that he could be an elusive weapon in the pass game. Flipping it over to the other side, someone that I think stock went down just a little bit this week was TCU quarterback Max Duggan. Now, Max Duggan's draft stock probably didn't take an extreme hit because of the Senior Bowl, just because of how the quarterback class ultimately is, and how a lot of the quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl really didn't impress a lot of people, unless you're Jake Haener, who actually won the Senior Bowl MVP and had a pretty decent week. But all in all, the quarterbacks there really didn't have the best week in general, and some of them didn't have the best game either. But Max Duggan, he had more expectations than some of the other quarterbacks that were there. He was a Heisman finalist and just led his team, TCU, to the college football playoff national title game and just had the best year of his college football career. And ultimately, he just didn't live up to the occasion all week, and even in the game, Max Duggan didn't necessarily have the best time. 4 of 9 and 26 passing yards for the American team. Going back to the winners, the next player I'm going to be taking a look at is Stanford wide receiver Michael Wilson. Now, Michael Wilson, out of everyone in today's video, may have a big chance to be probably the biggest overall riser from his draft grades going into the Senior Bowl week, being a later looked at guy because of the production that he had at Stanford and some of the injury issues that he had at Stanford. But because of how he did during the Senior Bowl week, being honestly probably one of the best receivers and being one of the biggest breakout players there, if he can capitalize what he did from the Senior Bowl, transition it into the Combine, or even the Stanford Pro Day, he's going to have a chance to potentially be a day 2 pick, or to be a lot better of a pick than he was originally projected to be. He's someone that had a really strong week, and any time that he was in during the practices, it always seemed like he was making plays, or was just one of the more consistent players during the entire Senior Bowl practice week. Now, there are concerns, as he did, of course, have 2 season-ending injuries at Stanford, and we haven't seen him have a really fully healthy season since 2019, in which he had his best season of 672 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. Back with the losing side of things, the next player I'm going to be talking about is offensive tackle from BYU, Blake Freeland. Freeland was a offensive lineman standout from BYU. He has great size at the offensive tackle position, standing in at 6'8", 300 pounds. However, during the entire week of practice, where he could have capitalized and made himself a day 2 lock for the 23 NFL draft, instead he's going to more than likely be a day 3 guy, as he struggled throughout the entire week with speed rushers and power rushers especially. He was a little bit better in the game, but ultimately did struggle and unintentionally caused a Malik Cunningham interception. Of course, on the Malik Cunningham interception, you can't put 100% of the blame on Blake. However, it was his guy that got by and created pressure and made a very unbalanced Malik Cunningham throw that led to an easy interception. Now, Blake Freeland, compared to the other offensive tackles, was also not one of the better ones for the week. Another player that I think their draft stock ultimately increased from the Senior Bowl week is Houston wide receiver Tank Dell. Now, Tank Dell is a shorter and faster receiver. As for the Senior Bowl week, he measured in at 5'8", one of the smaller receivers there, if not the smallest in height. But don't let that distract you from the production that he had in college. Tank Dell was a complete dog at Houston. Career-wise, 3,155 receiving yards and 32 touchdowns to the air, and coming off his best season, in which he had over 100 receptions for 1,398 yards and 17 total touchdowns to the air. Throughout the entire Senior Bowl week, he showed a lot of big play abilities with his speed, shiftiness, and of course his route running. I think he's a receiver with a lot of potential. Of course, he is a smaller receiver in this year's NFL draft, and he does seem to fit more in a speed system as a slot speedy receiver. I do believe if he's on the right team, he's going to be a huge threat wherever he goes. With this next player, I think his draft stock went down some from the Senior Bowl week, and I don't think it's going to be one that just drastically decreases, and as I still think he had a somewhat solid week, but ultimately didn't have the week that a lot of people expected, and that's SMU wide receiver Rashee Rice. Now, Rashee Rice is still one of my favorite receiver prospects in this entire draft, as he constantly improved every year at SMU and had a great 22 campaign. It has a lot of potential, especially with his size and frame and his ball abilities. However, he didn't have the best week, as some of the NFL draft scouting reports on him, the concerns going into the NFL draft is he needs to adjust to a pro-style offense, and sometimes he wasn't the best with creating separation at SMU at times, and during the Senior Bowl week, he had struggles with separation, which is very important with receivers, and ultimately that could drop his draft stock. For the final player that I'm going to be talking about in today's video, it is linebacker from Jackson State, Aubrey Miller. I think Aubrey Miller increased his draft stock during the Senior Bowl week, as ultimately I think he showed that he can be a very physical, good tackling linebacker and someone that has a very high IQ for the game. He has some pretty good size at 6'2", 225 pounds, and I think he's someone that has some very high upside. He's going to be a later pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, but I believe he can be a steal for a lot of teams. He's very athletic. He's shown abilities on the special team side of things at JSU, and overall being a 3-year starter on that defense with Deion Sanders, and he has great leadership abilities. I think he's someone that has a lot of upside and a lot of potential, and is going to be a good grab for anyone that goes and gets him. Well guys, if you made this far in today's video, drop something down in the comment section below. Who are your winners and losers for the 2023 Senior Bowl week? And before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. B. Kelly out.